There's three types of introductions, and you need to understand that all three of them are important. You may not use all three of them all the time, but there are definitely two of them that you're going to use on every single presentation. Now, when we talk about introductions, we're talking about how do we introduce the information? How do we introduce data? How do we emphasize and explain any tools, how do we give our knowledge? How do we offer the options? So number one, a verbal introduction. Now, when we talk about a verbal introduction, it's technically giving them the information verbally. The way my videos have been created, my videos actually offer two of them. They offer a verbal and a visual. Simply because you're watching a video, that's a visual introduction, and a verbal introduction simply because I'm verbally giving you the information. So when you're setting up your introductions, the verbal introduction is technically everything that you're verbally explaining to the customer. Number two, which you're going to use every single time, it's a written introduction. So everything that you give them verbally, you need to write it down. Not only just the options. Don't write down just the monthly payment and the initial payment. You should always write down the key points of your introduction, the key points of the topic that you're emphasizing. So if it's justifying factors, then most likely I'll write down type of driver, the zip code, and the type of vehicle. If I'm emphasizing on the loss ratio, I may just write the loss ratio, the last 3 years that we're calculating, and obviously anything relevant to that, anything that I need to write down. Real life examples, I may just write down the actual example. Like mechanics, for example. Mickey Mouse scenario, I may write Mickey Mouse scenario. So not only are you going to give them a verbal introduction, but you need to write down everything. Absolutely everything that's relevant to the introduction. Now, you don't need to write a paragraph, just the key points of the conversation. Now, these two, the verbal and the written, they're mandatory. Every single presentation, it doesn't matter if it's a basic quote, it doesn't matter if they're not ready, it doesn't matter if they're ready. Every single conversation, every single introduction, every single presentation requires these two, verbal and written. Now, the third type of introduction is a visual introduction. Now, let me give you 2 or 3 examples on a visual introduction. There's going to be a few situations where we're going to demonstrate technically some sort of concept, such as shop it around and agencies using a different zip code to offer something lower. So I may have the customer look at the FSC, so that's visual, the FSC, and I'm actually going to change the zip code in front of them. So that's a visual introduction, so they could see the process and how that works. By switching the zip code, the rates are decreasing. So technically, I may use a visual introduction to get my point across that the majority of the agencies may just offer something low, something very extremely affordable, but it may be completely incorrect. Maybe the Kelley Blue Book, maybe we're emphasizing on the value of the vehicle. I may log into Kelley Blue Book, go through the whole search, and show them the value of the car. So that's a visual introduction. Or maybe I'll log into the website and I'll give them just a quick scenario of their previous policy or their current policy and demonstrate through a visual presentation, a visual introduction, anything that's relevant to their policy. Or just simply a new quote. If I'm quoting something and I want to show them what Infiniti is offering versus an Alliance option, I may actually offer a visual introduction so they can actually acknowledge everything through a visual presentation. Or simply, when I'm emphasizing on the minimum, which is submission, that the companies require to open up a policy, and possibly they're debating or simply they don't want to pay anything else besides a monthly payment, I may just show them the website and show them submission so they could actually have a visual presentation. So once again, the three type of introductions that we offer: verbal introduction, which is mandatory; written introduction, which is mandatory; and a visual introduction, which is based on the scenario. So make sure to follow these three introductions. They're only going to help you close the deal. They're only going to help you add value to your presentation.